This is where the atheists gather. This is home. This is LATV 2.0.
Okay, let's see. So we're going to do something a bit different right now. We're going to do a Baloney detection kit. Now, for people that don't know this, because I've had this in the back of my mind for quite a while. A lot of people are told, you got to think critically, but what does that look like, right? So I figured we'd do an exercise where I will tell you guys a story, an actual true story, something that happened to me. And I want you guys to basically tear it apart. Be skeptical about the story. And I think it will give a good example to all our audience out there as to what kind of questions to ask. Because, when you say these people, just be skeptical or just ask questions, what's that look like? We don't really know. So if you guys will indulge me with that, it sounds like a fun thing to do. Yes, no, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it.
It's not like I have a choice.
You can leave, Sabrina. You can just leave.
I might have to have a bathroom break. I'm just kidding. Well, maybe not about the bathroom part. But.
It's going to get wet real quick here.
Okay. If you need a bathroom break, let's do it now.
I'm just teasing.
No, it's not just for you, it's for them too.
Yeah, I guess I should ask that question.
I could go if I needed to.
Do it now.
Okay.
That's what we record these things.
Yeah, I can pause.
You guys, see, I have. See, she's not going. She's got a normal sized bladder. How come you guys have tiny little bladders?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
I went before the show.
You haven't gone to the bathroom for an hour? Well, wow, it was like, holy jeez, really? Apparently, you and I are the only two people that have normal sized bladders around here.
I don't know. My bladder makes me laugh because you can use this for the outtakes. Weird thing, I don't like using other people's bathrooms.
I agree. I'm the same way.
I don't know why, but it's like there are times where I can just like be fine, and then all of a sudden I get home and I'm like, I have to go now.
Yeah. I mean, usually when we do the show, the usual format, which we're not doing today, as usually we do our segments and then say, okay, let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back. And then we pause. Then they scamper to the bathroom. And then I can bring the guest in, because I tell the guest usually to show up 1 hour after we start recording. So,
oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the guest can come in and then we can tell them how it's going to go and then continue the recording. Of course,
editing's easy. Shush.
That's because it will also depend on, when the last time I went.
Yeah.
I went right before the show started.
Well, what you think you would do? Well, normally, that's what
I do. I went right before the show started, and then I drank almost a full coffee, and this is like my third coffee, so it starts to flow a little bit faster.
Yeah, coffee for me too. Yeah, stuff just goes right through you.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. I've been recording all this time.
You know what? We need to find your other shirt so that you and I can pose in this and make it our profile picture.
Sure.
Oh yeah, it's a great idea.
And then if we once that gets to them, if they can also send us pictures, I can make a great big mashup, and it can be the Left at the Valley profile picture.
Sure.
Yes.
Aww.
Make it look like we're all in the same room.
Yeah, I have friends that can do that, and maybe my sister. She's a graphic designer. I have a couple friends that are graphic designers.
All right, let's do this. So I'm going to put some mood music here. And I'm going to tell you guys my story. And this is a real story. Something that happened to me where I had a Sasquatch encounter. Now, this happened to me several years ago. I was living in the little town of Mission. Now, Mission is a few hours, it's about 45 minutes away from here, due east and north of the Fraser River. Now, I was living north of Mission on essentially a tree farm. So you had to drive about 10 miles out of town to get to that little tree farm. A nice little cabin, log cabin and everything. It was nice. It was kind of cute, And I was working at a place in Vancouver, and I was doing a night shift. And this is one of those to set the mood. It was this perfect Stephen King night. the full moon, foggy cloud. It was about 2:00 in the morning when I came back home. I had put a double shift, and I was very tired. I was driving home, and I was essentially seconds or minutes away from falling asleep at the wheel, literally. As I was driving down the street where I was turning into my parking lot, and then we're talking about 200 yards from my entrance, in the ditch, I drove by something. My brain took a couple of seconds to process something that I saw, something tall, something brown. And my brain seemed to think, it's like I saw the back of a head. And I saw the hair on the back of the head. And the hair looked coarse. And I only realized that after the 200 yards and I turned into my driveway. And my brain just caught up with me and I said, what the hell did I just see there? Standing in the ditch. And I just drove right by, right? So I get out of the car, and like I said, it's a spooky, spooky night. It's a full moon. It's quiet, eerily quiet. Too quiet, in fact, because our neighbor next door had a kennel of dogs, and these dogs were always barking. So I was kind of taken aback as to, why are these dogs now barking? And then I heard this howl. I can't describe this howl. I can't compare it to any howl of any animal I know. To this day, I could not even describe the howl, but I know whenever I think about it, even to this day, I get kind of goosebumps. And I thought, I had this argument with myself thinking, do I walk 100 yards back onto the road and take a peek? Or do I just go into the house? I decided to just go into the house. This howl was very haunting and loud. So I went to the house, and as fire was, I had this fireplace that was heating the house, and the embers were dying. Everybody was asleep. And the cats, which are usually pretty active at 2:00 in the morning because they're cats, were actually both huddled under the couch together and were just staring at me. Say, okay, this is just weird. So I went to the second floor into the bedroom and looked outside the window, see if I could peek anything. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. And eventually I went to sleep. The next day when I woke up, I went back there and tried to find some evidence of something I could have seen, tracks or anything. I didn't find anything. Funny enough, though, I encountered a guy by the name of Thomas, who was down the road, who's actually a Sasquatch researcher. And I told him my story. And I basically he recorded everything. He took pictures and recorded everything. And he recorded the what was going on in the time of the event and all that. And, he's got everything documented. And funny enough, the entrance by where I had supposedly seen the creature, the entrance was one of our neighbors, right on his entrance on the archway, it actually says Bigfoot for some reason. So that was kind of an interesting coincidence. Never saw anything again, and to this day, I almost get goosebumps whenever I think of that story. All right, that's the story in a nutshell. Now, you guys, what do you think of this story?
It's totally true. It's obviously true. I mean, that's obvious for Bigfoot. And...
Well, obvious you saw a Sasquatch. I mean, they are after all. They're very popular here.
I mean, you got an expert in on it and everything. I mean, you did your due diligence there, sir.
Oh, wait, you actually want us to, like,
Yes. This is for the audience.
Okay.
Sorry, can't help but
just think of me as a believer for a second there. And how would you go ahead and take this down?
My first question is, how many hours were you awake by this point? Because you said you had a double shift.
A very good question. I actually had been awake for quite some time. So I'd been awake for, probably close to 24 hours.
Wow. So it's clearly sleep paralysis. So.
Well, paralysis usually comes with not being able to move.
Okay, and the road was lit or not lit?
The road was not lit.
Were your high beams on?
Yes.
What was the amount of time that you saw this thing? Like you said that your brain kind of caught back up. So what was the actual amount of like? Did you see it for a second?
How fast
Half
Okay.
a second?
So I'm driving at about 50 kilometers an hour, which
So your
is
driving speed limit,
speed.
That doesn't make any sense.
Miles per hour is what's 50 miles per hour?
30 miles an hour or something like that.
25,
Oh.
30 miles an hour. Down the normal street there. As you drive normal speed.
Paved or not paved?
Paved.
Okay.
And as I'm driving down and I'm literally like kind of falling asleep and waking up and falling asleep, as I'm passing, imagine you're standing on the side of the road and I passed you. This is the time that I saw something
Yeah.
or someone.
And
So-
and it's like, is there a house or anything lit behind? Like,
Um,
are you passing? Like, what kind of spacing? I've been down this road, but I don't remember.
yeah, it's down the street, and of course there are a few
I
entrances.
remember when we drove down, it was very wooded,
It's a very wooded area.
and that the houses were kind of set back from the road.
Yes.
I'm trying to like set the scene here of what
Yes.
could or couldn't be seen. So there would have been very little light aside from your headlights, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Because it kind of reminds me of I remember doing group therapy, and one of the things that we had to do is they would lift up this picture, you know, and then put it. It was like for like a half a second, I think they would put it up and put it right down, and then ask everybody around the circle what we saw. Nobody got it right. Out of 20 people, nobody got it right. So I'm just saying.
Is it possible? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sabrina.
No, doesn't matter. Go ahead. I've been talking a lot. It's your turn.
Was there a lot of wildlife around there, like deer and such?
Yes, it's a heavily wooded area, and like I said, it's way out of town. So
Are moose common up there?
not moose, but you'll see deer, you'll see bears on a regular basis, black bears.
See, my thought would be like a deer butt would be my first instinct.
But you're saying large, right? Deer
Well-
here aren't that large, unless it
Well,
was
it was-
rearing, maybe. Oh, coughing.
Excuse me. Deer would have been possible to with the color, but deer fur is usually fine.
Mhm.
My brain got the distinct expression this was
That's why
coarse
I'm
hair, like
wondering-
horse hair, you know, like
Okay.
the horse, very coarse hair, and it was also fairly tall. So unless
That
the
could
deer
be
was
a
actually
bear.
standing up, could be.
On its hind legs.
Yeah.
But usually in the area you'll see a lot of black bears. You won't see a lot of brown bears.
But black bears can be brown.
That's true as well.
I have seen brown black bears, and you think they
That's-
kind of look like grizzly, but they're too small and their snouts aren't the same shape.
The
I'm not
difficulty.
coming to- Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Oh, sorry. The difficulty with this is like being able in the first place to be able to rule things out, right? Because we have like a split second worth of time. So generally, what you would want to do is take the more likely scenarios and then rule them out one by one
Yes.
until you get to, of course, Bigfoot, which is the most unlikely scenario.
No, the
Um,
most plausible. That's what we're
Right.
totally joking here, people.
But yeah, so it makes it difficult to even be able to rule things out if we're only dealing with like a couple of seconds, and there wasn't really any investigation further until a few minutes later, or the next morning.
Wait,
Correct.
let's you said something about a roar.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Talk about that for a second, because deer don't roar.
Yes.
No.
So that would rule out a deer.
Mhm.
But bear make a lot of noise,
Yeah, they growl, they roar, but this was more of a howl.
like coyote.
That's possible.
Have you
Has-
heard coyotes when they have a kill?
I've heard heard coyotes before. This did not sound like a coyote, but I'm no expert on the range of sounds a coyote can make.
So pick an animal that it sounds similar to give us an idea of the sound that you heard. You know what I mean?
T-Rex.
Right? Have you heard a cat in heat?
It- yes. It was a mixture between the first thing that went to my mind when I first heard the howl was it was almost werewolf like.
Could have
Okay.
been a wolf. I was gonna
Right.
say, and here's one thing: the howl and the thing you saw don't have to be connected. Those can
Exactly.
be
Right.
two completely different
That's
instances.
a very good point. That
Yeah.
is
Yes.
an excellent point. An excellent point.
And that your brain just makes that connection.
Yeah.
And or what you saw could have just been a shadow, and then you heard the howl and tried to connect it to something, and then your brain went, wait a minute, what about that thing I saw that I wasn't sure what it was?
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. Working backwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
See that?
You guys think there might also be a connection with the fact that on the archway of the property
they said
where
Bigfoot.
it said Bigfoot,
Mhm.
did my
That could be.
brain just read the word and conjure up a Bigfoot?
Could be. Did have you looked up on YouTube what people that have caught the Bigfoot howls on record? Have you done that?
I think I have. I'm not sure. I'd probably have to look it up again.
What? Because I mean, then you could see if it's similar. Although every time I hear those, it just sounds like people making noises. But I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would say if it sounds like a werewolf, then it probably was like maybe a wolf or a timber wolf.
Yeah, we have wolves up here. Don't.
It'd be awful close to
that's-
town for a wolf.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
But
not quite far.
not
enough out.
impossible. Coyotes for sure.
But it could be a dog that has some wolf in it, which is not.
How do you-
Considering you said that those people had a kennel, maybe they had wolf crosses.
Maybe.
That would be so cute.
They just
dogs,
my uncle had
these
one.
dogs were loud most of the time, if not all the time. How do you explain they were very, very quiet?
I mean, it's
They were
2 in the
They were scared of the one dog that was howling.
Maybe it's 2
Yeah.
or maybe because it's also 2:00 in the morning. And maybe they're
Yeah.
actually-
Could be
Yeah,
asleep.
yeah.
I mean,
Have
just
you ever come home at 2 a.m. and not like you know what I mean? Was
I
that common
have,
for you
but
to
I
come
don't
home
think
that late?
I have, but I don't think I've ever noticed.
But doesn't that almost work against the conclusion that there was a Bigfoot? Wouldn't dogs be barking at the thing? Like if the dogs were barking a whole lot, wouldn't you say, oh, they must have been barking at the Bigfoot if that had been the case? So
No,
wouldn't that-
normally I would say yes. But if we were thinking how humans think, they were probably thinking that dogs were terrified and just being quiet.
Okay.
But that's more of a setup of a horror movie than maybe.
Yeah,
reality.
when I think about that though, yeah, I mean, if my dog smelled something that he wasn't sure of, he would absolutely be making noise,
That's what I was thinking.
especially at night. He's a very protective dog at night.
mhm.
Because it seems like the sounds that the dogs make are completely irrelevant to how you would to this situation. Because if they were barking, you would say that they were barking because of the Bigfoot, and then they're not barking, and so that's a result of the Bigfoot as well. So you know what I'm saying?
The sound or the lack of is really kind of irrelevant at that point. But it could
Yeah.
be the sound that you heard came from there. I mean, dogs could sound wolf-like too, as well.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all true. It's all very true.
So
You guys are taking this down pretty good so far.
I'm gonna jump from the dogs to the cats because I actually was reading a thing about cats recently that was talking about how cats do keep track of where their owners are and like where your voice is. And you can kind of see it sometimes when their ears will turn, but they're not mad. It's because they're keeping track of where you are and how you feel. If you came home and you were already kind of spooked out about this thing, the cats very possibly caught that, and so they're hiding. You probably slammed the door harder or something, and so they're just like,
Huh?
"Heck's going on here? I'm gonna hide. This guy's doing something weird."
Well, that's a very good explanation for where the cats were like
Absolutely,
that.
a cat person. Because that was kind of my first thought too with the cat, that the cats were feeding off of how you were feeling.
Yep. Because it could be in the middle of Zoomies. If I come home and I'm not happy, the cats are like,
Huh?
"We're gonna go away."
Leave you alone.
And I have a cat that knows, like, if I start talking about something that's emotional to me, that maybe brings up a feeling of anxiety, she immediately knows. I've had this cat since she was 7 weeks old, and she will absolutely crawl right up to my face. And if I get really upset, she will meow very loudly to go, wait a minute, just pay attention to me. I'm right here, pet me. And it's one of the only times I hear her purr. She purrs all the time, but you can only feel it. But I can hear it when I'm super upset. Anyway, cats are awesome. That's the moral of that story. Cats
I think we determined a lot already on this story. The fact that Kevin was very, very tired.
Mm-hmm.
The brain can play tricks on you.
Mhm.
eyewitnesses are not super reliable.
Oh, not at all.
I saw something that had at best a vague description of something brown that seemed to be standing with coarse hair.
Which easily could have just been a shadow.
Maybe.
You're tired.
And the fact that the neighbor's sign had a Bigfoot
Mhm.
Could have been some kind of suggestion
Mhm.
on my brain.
And also the researcher too, which we kind of dismissed right away. But the fact that
But the researcher came much later.
how much later?
Oh, a couple of days.
I would say actually that's still in whatever play, because the brain and memory is incredibly valuable. And so the idea that he's probably trying to make sure he can actually come to the conclusion he wants to.
Mhm.
So he might ask leading questions, lead your brain into thinking you saw a standing thing when actually it was just a weird bark pattern on a tree.
Yeah, like it could be that your memory is now conflated because of what he has told you.
Absolutely, that's always possible.
Yeah.
The fact that I pulled in and didn't hear a sound because didn't hear the dogs. Well, it
You
was
mu-
2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, and
Maybe they're sleeping.
and you're now connecting that with something different now.
I'm connected with the horror movie pattern of
Mhm.
something's going to jump
Mhm.
because everything's really quiet all of a sudden, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
The howl, we can't really explain at this point, but it could be some unknown coyote sound that I don't know of.
Mhm.
It could very well be that.
Most likely animal in the area, by the way. That's why I
Most
say it.
likely,
Yeah.
or a bear or something like that. The cats, we already explained that maybe the
Mhm.
cats just fed off me.
Mhm.
You know, the fact that I climbed, like I said, I climbed upstairs, looked out the window, couldn't see anything, couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, again, 2:00 in the morning.
2:00 in the morning.
In a
right?
very quiet street where it's not very populated, which is something that we really should have mentioned. That
In
this
the
is
boonies.
yeah, we're in the boonies, so you're talking maybe 1 acre, 2 acre properties, probably
Yes.
maybe even
Okay.
5 acre properties. Like so, maybe 3 or 5 houses on the street,
Yeah.
or yeah. So let's set that scene too, right?
You're not packed like sardines like I am.
No,
Right. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Here now, yeah, we're in the suburbs now, so you know you got neighbors. Anyway,
So, interesting note. The researcher, his name was Thomas, and he's actually a very genuine fellow. I actually interviewed him on this show years ago.
Mhm.
Thomas, the Sasquatch Hunter, and we actually spoke about it. And he's not actually a crank. You would think he is right off the bat, but no, he actually believes that maybe the most logical explanation would be a lost species of Gigantopithecus.
of what?
Giant of ancient ape.
Okay.
There was a really giant ape, whatever.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to.
Giganticus.
It's something I've never heard. Anyways,
No,
Yep.
that's his theory, and I
Mhm.
even asked him at the show during the show, said if it was proven to you that Gigantopithecus isn't responsible for this, would you be willing to accept that? You know, maybe this is all Bupkis, and he said yes. So he was actually an incredibly reasonable guy
Mhm.
for a Sasquatch hunter and believer. So interesting enough. Now, what you guys don't know,
That's a pretty low bar, but okay. But just, you can go.
what you guys don't know is Thomas did some more research into that, and turns out that he came back with some information a couple of years later on my case.
Okay.
My case. It turns out that the place where I kind of saw, and where there's that Bigfoot sign and everything. Apparently, they do hunting games.
Okay.
Hunting games where somebody will dress up as prey.
Okay.
So maybe that's what I saw too.
And they shoot
That's
the person?
Well, no, they don't.
That
They
doesn't
don't.
seem ethical.
Maybe they shoot with a Nerf gun.
Yeah.
Or
Or,
like
or like
paintball.
paintball.
Or
Yeah.
somebody
Oh,
wearing.
paper. Okay.
somebody
As a
wearing-
person who's done live action role playing or LARPs, that's a level of geekiness that is wow.
But at 2:00 in the morning, would they actually do it that late at night? That seems a little bit of a stretch, but maybe not
But
impossible.
it could have easily been somebody with a ghillie suit. If you're familiar with a ghillie suit,
No.
it's one of those
Yeah.
suits. You look like moss almost. You know, you look like a pile of moss.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The rainbow blanket.
Yeah,
Again, at 2 in the morning would be a little weird, but
would be
not
a little weird.
necessarily impossible in total geek world. Like I do understand that there are some hardcore people out there, especially around here.
Mhm. So essentially, that is
Interesting.
where this case stands at this point. So if I was to ask you, did Kevin actually see Bigfoot or
No.
Sasquatch?
I'm sorry, hun, but
No,
Nope.
probably not.
Yes. Wait, I feel like you guys. No.
They could be role playing that they're catching the Sasquatch, though. That would be interesting.
yeah, that's what I'm
or,
thinking. Like maybe
Oh,
he
yeah.
was up like
or the guy
Sasquatch.
maybe he was dressed up as a bear or
Mhm.
anything, something like that, right? And
Yeah.
he just happened to be standing in the ditch near the entrance as I drove by.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right?
what I think. I think most of the sightings are just crazy mountain men. You know?
It could absolutely be,
Could very well
especially
be.
around here. Like I said, it's not impossible, especially not in Mission.
Right?
There we go. So thank you for analyzing that, guys. That was pretty good. Hopefully we helped our listeners get an idea at least of what it's supposed to be like when you're asking these kind of questions. And I'm happy you guys call me just an idiot right off the bat.
I would never, though. That's the thing. I don't think people are idiots. I think that they have interesting memory patterns, and I'm not even trying to change their mind. I'm just trying to understand what it is that they're truly remembering. I'll let them keep their own opinion. I really couldn't care less what they think. Like, it's about what I think that matters to me. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and if my what I think doesn't align with theirs, I again would never say, "Oh yeah, you're a dumbass." I'll just walk away thinking you're a dumbass. You know, I'm not supposed to say it out loud. That's okay.
Do you guys have any stories like that in your life that could be kind of like, well, maybe not a Bigfoot story, but something that could, at first you thought, wow, I totally saw a ghost or something like that. And on second analysis, you realize, no, I was probably just drunk. Or something.
I actually have.
Go for it. Tell it.
So this is when I was a kid. I was probably 10-ish years old. My mom did childcare, but we lived around. There were like 5 or 6 people who did childcare within very short distance, and we all would converge at this park that was a couple blocks away.
Mhm.
All that's relatively important. So there's a park with a whole bunch of kids. We're all running around. Like I said, I was probably about 10-ish, and I distinctly remember that this person I know who does not go to any of these childcare places or anything goes, "Oh, hey, how are you doing?" and then ran away. I searched the entire playground. I asked my mom. I was like, I thought I saw this kid here. And she's like, he's not here. What the heck are you talking about? Not a clue. But I swear he came up, said something, and ran away.
I can see kids do that too.
Yeah.
If I was a ghost kid, that's exactly what I'd be doing like all day.
I remember my brother. Darting across traffic on a busy, like 2-lane each way, and he's darting across traffic. I'm thinking, what are you doing? And he's running like it's an emergency just to get to the other side, tap his buddy on the shoulder and say hi, and just walk away.
Oh my god, that's freaking hilarious.
You didn't see me waving there, so I.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Exactly that, right?
Maybe I'd have to think about it.
I remember one time when I was on a campground when I was about 16. I remember seeing somebody that moved weird. It was close to like at dusk, and it just if you had like a mannequin on roller skates and you just moved it,
Mhm.
there was like no swaying of the walking of the, and it just moved like that and went around the corner to the point that I chased that person, and of course when I came around the corner, nobody's there. And I was thinking for the longest time as a kid, I'm thinking, did I just see some kind of ghost?
Floating man.
It wasn't, like I said, there was no motion of legs or arms. It was just like something.
Hover man.
Hover. Yeah, there we go.
I had a desperation to believe in like ghosts in the afterlife as a teenager.
Oh,
So
yeah.
people like would, we'd Ouija board, and we, of course, I'm sure everybody pushed it around. So there was those. And then I had a friend who used to pretend that she was possessed. I kind of knew she was faking it, but other people were buying it, or at least they were pretending to. That was, but I mean, that's high school.
Yeah.
I love the way you say it. It's like boogie boarding. Me like we were Ouija boarding. And
Don't know. Like, a lot of
That
us
was
didn't
great.
actually even have a Ouija board. A friend of mine had a table that was glass, and so we used to
wow.
draw the Ouija board on it, and then we could just erase it.
I see.
With like a whiteboard marker or something. I don't quite remember. I mean, anyway, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
I wish I was more technically capable, because I always wanted to put a Ouija board with a magnet underneath it on some kind of little remote control device. I could move the magnet and move the board by itself without nobody touching. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Oh man. For the longest time, I thought, because we had a Ouija board that we used a long time ago, and it was and I remember we like threw it out. I got scared and I ripped it up and I threw it out. And my friends, they had access to, because we would my room was right next to the garage, and you could basically just walk into the garage and go into the room that was right there.
Mhm.
And and so my friends, when I wasn't looking, before I got up, they went and put the Ouija board in my room, so I would see it right when I woke up, all taped together. I swore for years. I just found this out like 5 years ago that they did that on purpose.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's like I read a post like that. I think I sent it on Apologetics. The guy who was reading The Exorcist.
The book, and he threw it in the water.
Threw it in the Chesapeake River, and then he just bought another copy, just soaked it in water, put it in his dresser.
Yes.
That's when we talked about the Ouija board. Was that on LATV or on Apologetics?
It was on Apologetics.
I think it was on
Yeah.
It's so hard when we do so dang many shows together, you guys.
I know, right?
Not that I mind.
I think it was
actually recently on a blog or on a group that has quite a few members.
right. But it was the fact that they all knew I was super gullible, and I believed all this weird, wacky stuff, that they didn't.
Me
believe.
too. I'm sure that a lot of people did it and laughed about it behind my back, but it was all good. I don't care.
I think it was Einstein himself who said the most beautiful sensation is that of mystery. And it's true. We love mystery. We love the unknown, and we love the possibility they can bring to us, and we love to make up something about it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like that Unsolved Mystery show. I always thought that it just ended kind of crummy.
Scared the shit out of me.
They're like, yeah, and we still don't know anything about this. And you're like, what a letdown. I thought the end would be like figuring it out.
Well, then it would be mystery.
Every documentary out there like that is like Finding Nessie, and it always ends up with, well,
we don't
know. We might have seen a fin.
Have you guys heard of Ogopogo?
Yeah, that's
that big long one. The
so like
it's like the Canadian version of the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, they call it
Ogopogo. It's it's like a sea
name.
serpent, but it's not a sea serpent because
every
it's in a
country's
lake.
got one of those. Every country's got one of those.
Yeah, there's a few states that have them.
I think the one in the U.S. is called Mike Pence.
Well, I think there's one in Lake Erie, and I'm pretty sure there's one in one of the Minnesota lakes, because Minnesota has a ton of lakes. We have more waterfront property than I think California and potentially Florida, because we have that many lakes.
We have a lot of lakes in BC too, but I don't think there's very many cabins around them.
Actually, there's more lakes in Canada than all the other countries in the world combined.
Where's the land of 1,000 lakes? Where's that?
10,000 lakes.
10,000. Thank you. That's
okay.
All right. I was like, that's
actually, it's kind of a humble brag, because it's actually more like 14, 15, depending on what you count as a lake.
Yeah.
We're counting this puddle right here too. Okay, that counts.
That's really cool.
Nice even number here.
That's cool.
Oh yeah,
you're like not too far. I'm like picturing Minnesota, and I'm like, okay, well, I could drive there. I can't really drive to Brentley's, but you're kind of just down the street.
Exactly,
you really are. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, guys, for this, and thank you to my co-hosts Sabrina, Ertzi, and Brent Lee, and thank you for listening. And what do I do?
At this point, we say, well, we've got this great YouTube channel. It's called youtube.com/LAT or Left at the Valley. Sorry. Yeah. We're also on Facebook.com Facebook.com/Left at the Valley. Twitter at
LATV Podcast.
Yeah.
And while you're there, why don't you model the t-shirt you got?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
yes.
Look at that.
Our new shirt. And
we're going to give those to our patrons as well.
There we go. Here, let me stand up a little bit. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect. So what we're doing is all our patrons, existing and new, will get one of these t-shirts. Not at the lowest level, I don't think, but maybe
depending how generous we feel.
Yeah, because the lowest level's only $1 a month, or $1 an episode. That's like $4 a month.
Yeah, exactly. So, support our efforts, support our show. It really helps. You can find us at left. You said all that.
I
Send
did.
us an
Oh,
email
wait, email. We forgot
left
about
at
email.
valley at outlook.com.
If you write in, we will read it.
Talk about Instagram either. We're on Instagram too. I don't know how to
Sure.
find us,
Me
but
neither.
search there. I don't use it, but we post, so you never
We
know.
do? Okay.
Sometimes.
And give us a 5-star review where you find us. It helps us and helps others find the show. Brett, give us a quick plug for Unapologetic, please.
Look up on YouTube the Unapologetic Spell with an X panel stream.
Mhm.
We pretty much just hang out. We watch clips and just kind of do it's just a free for all, really. It's just fun
Yeah.
time.
All right.
Wait,
coming up-
we forgot to say leftatthevalley.ca.
That's right. Leftofthevalley.ca. Don't go to .com.
Don't go to .com. We're working on that. I think we should talk about this.
All right. Next week, we'll be talking to Spencer Cruz and we talk about marine biology.
That's the sun.
Nice.
That's right. We'll be also talking to Dr. Clint Heacock about Christian
Oh, I
dominionism.
like him too. We're having fun this year.
And around the end of December, mid-December, around December, we're talking to Tom and Cecil of Cognitive Dissonance. That should be fun.
Yay!
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be a fun year.
And we'll also be talking in January. We'll be talking to Dr. Edwin Hodge, which we had some technical difficulties. I would be talking to him about what they call these, the natural persons.
Oh yes, personhood.
Yes, natural personhood. You know, these
The
independent
people
civilians. All that
we'll
kind of
talk
stuff.
all about it. I don't. Is it just a Canadian thing or is that worldwide?
No, it's worldwide.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we'll talk about it. It's fun.
Perfect. Anything else you need to add?
Have a good week.
All right, guys. Until next time.
To respect them, fuck them.